Hey, Joe Zarzaur here with Dr. Malone. Joe Zarzaur here with Dr. Malone, and we are, again, it's now Thursday, the 9th of April. We're into our 4th week of remote working here at the firm. Working at 100%, I think we were able to settle several $100,000 in cases this week. And we signed up several new clients today again. So we're doing all this stuff via Zoom or FaceTime, and we're able with a special app that allows the clients to sign the documents, which is helpful. But the real purpose of this video is so that our board certified internal medicine physician, Dr. Evan Malone, can talk to the local community from a medical perspective about the virus and different things that are going on current event wise with the virus. We had stopped yesterday in our talk, and we were talking about the nursing home issues here locally. And then the front page of the paper today, above the fold, as you can see, their headline was the issues at the nursing home. One of the things that we assumed yesterday was that the nursing home was alerting the family members as to which facilities were affected. But according to this headline, as you can see there, family members not told which facilities affected, which has got to be a horrible situation for the families to not know if somebody in their grandmother or grandfather or dad or mom's facility is affected, or if multiple people in that facility are affected and the families have no idea. So I realize there's some balancing of some HIPAA stuff there, but you know, sometimes the public interest outweighs maybe some immediate HIPAA privacy interest, especially when it's a life-threatening illness. But in any event, Doc, what are the numbers today as far as infections?
Yeah, so actually, real quick, I just want to add, I've been trying to follow the news as much as possible with PNJ there, and then the television media, and then I know that Rick Outson also has been following this very closely, and no information as far as which facility, and it's being passed up to a higher level each time. And I think most recently I saw that the release of that information will be up to the Surgeon General of the state of Florida. So. So to inform as to just which facility, and you know, I agree with you. I mean, it's not a medical issue at this point. It's more of a community health and epidemiology issue. You know, so that's the frustrating thing. And to even break it down and say an employee, was it a visitor, or is it someone who resides at these facilities? So anyhow, we'll get into that some more, but to get back to the numbers here, as you had referenced, so locally in Escambia County, not a whole lot of a change in the long-term care centers from yesterday, meaning it was 18 reported cases yesterday at this time, and it's still at 18 from what I saw most recent, like midday today. However, I think that the county's kind of holding back, at least on their releases as far as frequency on that, at least from what I gathered. So I'm not quite sure how real time some of these numbers.
According to this, of course, this went to press last night probably. The state numbers were 475.
And the county's at 18 of them now.
Yeah. And then what was the? I saw something. I was busy today, but I saw something on one of the breaking news things on CNN or MSNBC or something, and it said, it may have been Fox, I don't remember, but it said something about Richmond, Virginia outbreak at a assisted care living facility, or what was up with that? I didn't get
so it's a long-term care center. I think it's actually 2 centers. I think they're like within work. And they're basically going to be as high in the death toll as the initial one in Washington State, where I think as of this afternoon, the death toll is 39. So
it's higher.
the news that Yeah, the news flashes you were seeing were probably when it was like 28 or 35, and I believe I saw that it's up to 39 now. And
39 people died
so
from that one facility?
yeah, I think it's technically two facilities under the same umbrella. So, but nonetheless, so 39 people, and it's just it's right outside of Richmond, and it's the name of the facility, I think it's Canterbury,
Yeah, I saw
Canterbury.
the
If people want to
pictures
look
of
it
the
up,
sign. That's what I remember
yeah,
seeing.
there's plenty. I'm not familiar with the system or anything like that, but there's no shortage of articles out there regarding that, and I keep getting the same news alerts you do. So that's kind of, I said this last night, it's scary. This is the nightmare scenario, and this is what you don't want. And, you'd like to think that any and all of the long-term care facilities in this area should have been and should be continuing to practice some of the guidelines that are being put forth. And I know we mentioned that last night, and to those in just a minute, but I pulled up a little bit more of a couple of reliable documents from let's see, from, I actually pulled up a sample letter from the CDC with some stuff from Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which we'll pull up. But let me finish with the numbers real quick. So
Right,
the long-term care facilities haven't changed. In the county, we have 17 hospitalizations and 3 deaths. So not a lot of upward movement there. And again, those are just over the whole term of this outbreak. So it's not 17 people in the hospital at one time right now. Locally, we have 192 diagnosed cases, again, over the term of this. So of those 192, how many are recovered? We don't know that yet. No one's really been publishing that data, not even on the national level. So we'll find that stuff out years or months from now. You're trying to do a analysis afterwards on how we learn from this illness. We're still right around 6.5% in positivity as far as testing in the county. And then in the state, we have 371 deaths and just under 17,000 cases in the state. Social media scores were between B and C. I checked a couple of times today. It's kind of fluid. So
You said
way better
social
than what we
media,
were.
social distancing score?
Social distancing
Yes.
scores.
Just
Yeah,
making
sorry.
sure.
So we'd been basically D's all week last week, so we're hanging B
Right.
and C. So that's good, and hopefully, again, that's the sign of people obeying some of the orders from the governor. So anyhow, let's get into the what I was going to share here with people. And so this document here is what CMS recommended last week. So, we showed some stuff yesterday. It was kind of like this long laundry list of all the things they had to do. This is an itemized list of what the people who pay for residents at these facilities, they're all reimbursed by Medicare and Medicaid, right? So in order to get their reimbursement, you'd like to think that they're doing this or continuing to do these things. So it's a pretty helpful information. But the thing I liked at the bottom here is, read that. Can you read that, Joe? That point.
Yeah, long-term care facilities should, to the fullest extent possible, inform residents and their families of limitations of their access to and ability to leave and re-enter the facility, as well as any requirements and procedures for placement of alternative facilities for COVID-19 positive or unknown status. Is that what you mean?
So yeah, that kind of, to know that there's not any information out there being reported, and see that as the final point from Center for Medicare Medicaid Services, that's kind of telling.
Well, I was come to the office today. We were pulling out from underneath the overpass of 110, where the off ramp is for 110, coming up under the interstate there on, I guess that's was it Gregory Street, and I guess, is that Episcopal Place? What is the name of that assisted living facility downtown across from? The front of it is across from the Methodist Church. Maybe it's the Methodist. I can't remember what church it's affiliated with, but there's an assisted living facility / nursing home across the street from the Methodist church.
It's right on the corner of, it's right on the corner of Jefferson there, I think.
Well, Jefferson runs this way.
Oh no, yeah.
Anyway, there were chairs set up outside the windows so that I guess people could visit with their relatives without going inside the facility. So they had like they were folding chairs, and some of them looked like old school chairs, and they had them basically arranged outside on the grass, outside the windows of the units, so they could have just some kind of visually communicate with their relatives or loved ones in these facilities, and which is the safest. I saw that on TV when they were doing it in Seattle too.
Yeah.
And that takes all the risk out of the deal. I mean, you got a piece of glass between you and the person.
That's
chances of you communicating anything is, disease-wise, is slim.
Yeah, and I think it's Wesley Haven. I had to get on the
That's
Google
right.
machine,
That's
but
right.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. So it's you mentioned that, but then in some of my other searching, I found this. Then and we're talking about communication. So CDC actually has a form letter that they recommend these facilities send to their family members of loved ones, and it's a fill in the blank kind of a thing even. And I'd like to think that these things are being sent out to the family members of the loved ones and family and friends. So we'll share that so that if you're not in that situation, you're kind of curious what these people should be getting. We'll share this today with the link to it.
As a lawyer, and my question is, if I had a family member in one of these facilities and they weren't telling me whether somebody in the facility had infected 3 or 4 people in there, I'd be a little, pissed off. I mean, to pardon my French, but I'd be wanting to know why I can't get this information. And legally, if they're the healthcare proxy or they're the healthcare representative for this particular resident, the resident certainly should be entitled to that information. Why wouldn't the resident be entitled to know that a life-threatening, very communicable illness is present in this facility? That's like having a predator in the facility, and the facility's thinking, okay, let's just not tell everybody in here that there is somebody hiding in one of the closets. They could come out at night and inflict harm on them. I don't get the rationale for that. I'm sorry. It makes no sense. So I'm not sure. Hopefully there's no families really in that position. This article suggests that they are. Sounds like you're reading Rick's blog is suggesting that too, which I think is ridiculous. I don't have words for it. How
it sounds like Rick's on the front lines of trying to get this information out, and he's kind of leading the charge on some of the Q&A, and it sounds like there's roadblocks everywhere, and it just keeps getting passed higher up the chain of command, and now it's the Surgeon General, and that's their call.
Unless somebody gets some federal judge involved and get some order in place, or even a state judge with this case. But in any event, all right. So what are we learning as far as peak? Whether we're going up, down, plateauing here? Do we know? Are we still moving up?
We're still moving up. If you look at the county numbers, we've gone up 10 cases since yesterday, and so they're still going up, but not at a sharp rate where it's like doubling. Like a couple of weeks ago, we went from 37 to 81 in a 1-day interval. So to go up 10 at a time here, I think we're slowing down. We're still not peaked according to the models, and we're expecting that hopefully within the next week, depending on which model you look at, which state we fall into, as we mentioned multiple times before. Right. So I'm with you. I think we fall more in the other states that surround us as opposed to South Florida as far as the demographics of the infection, I would think. So that's where we're at with that. And then the whole
any
thing
new
with
stuff on any new stuff on a rapid test or a treatment?
Nothing as far as the treatment. I know we touched on that yesterday. I guess the newest thing was that the plasma exchange, or the treating people with the antibody from someone who had the infection with the serum, that has been approved for the compassionate use, and apparently there's some ongoing trials. I mean, every day I look, there's actually like a database you can go to, and there's trials like multiplying, and it's different scenarios of using the different drugs or modalities and trying to look at the different populations. So these are things, and some of them, like they say, the trial started today and it's good for 2 years. So these aren't things that are going to be in 2 weeks. This is like so we can learn from this, because coronavirus is not going away. We're going to learn how to live with it like we did with the flu. So this is a long-term project. These people hopefully can get some initial data to say, can we enact any other compassionate use modalities for people that are really extremely ill, and we can kind of limit the impact on their entire body and allow them a better chance of survival, so that when someone else shows up and we can anticipate when they're going to be sick and kind of get to them before they get to that point. And that's what we're talking about with like learning from that cytokine surge a couple of days ago, like figuring out ways to predict who's going to have that. Like you and I, there's no, you could have it and I couldn't, and there's no way to tell by looking at one of us. They have to look inside of us, look at the way the CAT scans look at any other number of factors. So that's what we're trying to learn, so we can anticipate this as well and live with it when it goes bad. What I wanted to is, you know, I guess I made a joke the other night that I hadn't driven in a week, and that's still the case right now. So here on it's Thursday, I haven't driven since Sunday, and so I haven't gone out. My wife has, and she's made mention, you know, people with masks and all that, and I thought something that kind of drove that point home. And there's just people out running their errands, and so I'm going to show you something here, and I know we've read about it a couple of times. So here is, let's see here. This is a cough. And I'll have you know that this was in 2008.
All right, so we're looking at, help me. Oh, I see now. You can see the person's face now. Okay. Yeah,
the person is on the left, and the cough plume, I guess I'll call it, for lack of a better word.
Wow, look at that.
That's a cough. And so they tell you, and we'll put this link up here for this, but so they tell you, look at the very bottom, the last sentence, increasing interest in visualizing such expelled airflows without the use of intrusive because of concern regarding the transmission of various airborne pathogens, viruses that cause influenza as well as SARS. And this was in 2008 when we were curious about SARS. So the reason why I think that now it's important to wear a mask is, like we said before, you don't trust the other people driving on a road. You have to have defensive driving skills. Well, you have to protect yourself from the person who might cough, even though they're not intentionally doing it, but they might cough in a setting where you're not able to have that distance afforded you. So if you're in a store and you're walking down the same aisle, those aisles are pretty thin. Look at this thing, went out more than a half meter. So, and that's in a split second. So you're not going to jump out of the way. You're not that agile.
Right.
So that's the cough. That's the cough. And let me show you the sneeze. And this one, oh yeah, this is, oh, let's see here. So this, hold on. Let me get the sneeze one, apologies. All right, so here is the sneeze one. And this one is a little bit more recent. The same thing. So the person that they're standing on the left, you can see like her head is at the top. Looks like a her. Anyhow, so they show you, yeah. And
what are the ones top to bottom? Is that just the same person as it's going?
Yeah. So
left to right.
Yeah. So those are frames as you go across. So you read from the left to the right on the top, and then you go to the middle row, then you go to the last row. And so that bottom right one is the last picture, and 75 centimeters.
A metric system is just beyond me. So tell me what that is in meters, I guess.
So
the other one was half a meter.
Yeah, a meter is 1,000. I'm sorry, 100 centimeters.
Okay, all right. So this is less than the cough, basically.
No, it's more than the cough. The cough was a half of a meter. This is 3/4 of a meter.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, but then in the proton, the largest droplets rapidly settle within 1 to 2 meters away from the person. Smaller evaporating droplets are trapped in a turbulent puff of cloud, remaining suspended, and over the course of seconds to a few minutes can travel the dimensions of a room and land up to 6 to 8 feet away.
Yeah, it does look like this is I guess they're smaller particles, and so they don't look like they go down as abruptly.
Yeah.
They seem to stay up higher.
Yeah, the last sentence is the telling sentence, and this is you can.
Yeah, so sort of says what I just said.
Yeah. So that's the telling sentence, but we'll put it in here. I mean, there's different publications that are out there. These ones are both pretty reliable.
They actually land up to 6 to 8 meters away.
Yeah, as like basically a droplet or an aerosol that you can't feel or see, and you walked through it after someone sneezed, and you have no control over their sneeze. So the control that you do have is to try to cover yourself up,
Right.
and frequent hand washing. So
And
again,
if you have a
none of
thing on,
these are,
especially if you're sneezing and you are coughing and you have a mask on, at least you could contain that stuff inside your mask.
yeah.
I'd like to see, I'd
So
like
that's
to
like
see this with a
the
cloth
mask on.
mask on our face to see what it does, the difference it does to that.
Yeah, that'll be my assignment for tomorrow. I'll see if I can find
Oh,
something
okay.
similar that shows that. But you know that I liken that to like being a responsible pet owner, right? So you
Right.
do everything, like you keep your dog on a leash so your dog doesn't run away and scare someone or attack someone, right? Well,
Right.
going out in public, you're responsible now if you're putting a mask on the off chance that you sneeze, because I just said a minute ago you don't have control over someone else's sneeze. Well, you sometimes don't have control of your own sneeze,
Right.
right? So
That's right.
that's those are the reasons to cover up. And then the last thing I wanted to share, and we've mentioned this last week, this recently came out, I think it's published yesterday. The first documented or reported case of someone who had sudden loss of smell is their seminal and sole symptom of coronavirus. And they basically did an MRI of their sinuses, and they saw that those two little yellow arrows are where it was obstructing, and it was like that right there is what they think is the cause to why these people show up with lack of smell, as far as the first coronavirus symptom. And so this is our first report of a patient with COVID-19 presenting essentially with olfactory function loss, and that's it. Otherwise, it's like a 40-year-old person.
Wait, they had no fever. They had no cough.
No.
They had no shortness of breath. Just couldn't smell.
Well, she said right here, so it says she had a dry cough associated with myalgia a couple days earlier.
But
so
no
I guess
fever.
there were some other symptoms. Yeah, no fever, and it was a lack of. They did testing on her, and
what is rhinorrhea?
It's like a runny nose.
Oh, okay.
That's a runny nose, like when you look like you're having allergies and like your eyes are swollen up and you're drippy in your nose. That's rhinorrhea. So and then cephalgia is a headache. So they tested this patient with all these different odors, like essential oil kind of stuff, to see, and she basically failed them all. And these are tests that are commonly used, and one of them is like manure, and she couldn't smell it.
I see that.
So then they did that. Then they did the MRI, and they're saying that their proposed mechanism is this blockage, this little blockage, and this is a cross section of your sinuses. And they obviously leave it open for more study and trying to figure out how to apply this information. Again, like I mentioned earlier, so we can live with this, so that, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's like, yeah, like the loss of smell is like, you know, just as important as taking your temperature to home. Do you have like something that you can smell and say, I can't smell this little sample of what's supposed to smell like some offensive smell, and I can't smell it? Like, wow, there's something going on.
Right.
So I think some interesting modalities of home diagnosis or home warning, apart from just checking people's temperatures.
All right. So here's my concern for the end of this week and this weekend. Okay.
Yep.
People are starting to get the impression that things are under control somewhat in New York. And you're hearing talk about treatments and vaccines, and they're close and blah, blah. And my concern is that people are going to start thinking, okay, well, the worst of it's over. It's like when we have hurricanes and you think the first half of it comes on shore, and then the eye comes on shore, and you think, oh, it's nice out. And then you're not thinking about the back half of the hurricane. I'm a little concerned that people are going to get out and socialize and go back out and raft up at Fort McRae and do things like that. What would you say to those folks?
I would say hold the course, and I think your concern is valid. I think that is by all these experts that are, you know, kind of saying the same thing. Like, yeah, like flatten that curve, but once you flatten the curve, like you're still in. I think I saw one gentleman call it, you're still in the first quarter of a 4-quarter football game. So, you know, you've just gotten your strategy down. You figured out the other side's offense or defense, but you still have 3 play. So
Right.
that's, I say, hold the course.
Hold the course and don't make it to where this is extended through August, because we go into a second phase of this infection and more people get sick the second time and die from this.
Or even if we don't go through a second phase, but we flatten that curve and then it just plateaus and doesn't go back. You know,
Down for a while.
So
Well,
you don't want to live at, you don't want to live at that level. You want it to go back down.
The other issue is it's Easter weekend. And people have traditions where they do Easter egg hunts and they do family dinners, and it's Passover yesterday and through the weekend. And so you've got these religious holidays that people associate with togetherness and family activities and traditions. And people are going to want to try to do those things even though this is happening. And I mean, I can imagine the amount of stuff that would be transferred with an Easter egg hunt. Think about that for a second. All the eggs that the parents put out, they're putting their germs on the eggs, and then other kids are picking up the eggs, and then they're eating candy. And I mean, it's just, you know, it sounds like a playground for a virus. So I think it's important that we just stay the course. I mean, hell, we've been here. I told the staff today, this is our 4th week. They haven't been in the office in a month as a staff.
But we've been to work.
Yeah, you've been to work, I guess, but you hadn't been in the office in a month. And it's like, I'm ready for this to be over as a business owner too, be honest with you. But at the same time, I know that if we bring people back too soon, we're going to be in a worse position. And so from a financial perspective, from a health perspective, it just makes sense to let this thing play out. We've gone this far. Let's let it play out and start fizzling down. And then once we get the clear and there's some kind of, hopefully a rapid test and some kind of treatment, or at least a rapid test, that we can smartly reignite the business sector and the schools, the school system. But anyway, all right. We're still seeing clients for injury cases, car wrecks. They're still happening, believe it or not, even though I can count the number of cars from downtown for the last 7 hours on one hand, maybe 2 hands, possibly. I'm glad people aren't getting injured. If you do end up in a situation where you need a personal injury lawyer, we're still here working at full capacity. You can find us on the web at zarzaurlaw.com, 855-HIRE-JOE. If you have questions for Dr. Malone related to COVID or some injury case, you're certainly welcome to reach out at info@zarzaurlaw.com, or you can ask a question under this video down in the comments, and we'll try to get back to you. Thank y'all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Dr. Malone.
See you. Yep.